Good morning, everyone. I'd like to introduce myself formally as the new chairman, Paulo Robertson. And I just wanted to start off by saying, first, thank you all for the work that you've contributed so far. I had a benefit of spending some time with you prior to Andreas Comer's leadership, which I can't say enough of, and hope to continue very much in the same vein. Looking forward to the work ahead, and using you all as resources. And also, as we move forward, as I said, it's a lot of work ahead. We've got a great team, looking forward to orchestrate and push things ahead. Yesterday was a big day. Thank you all that came out and participated. And as I said, I always say nonstop, this is not perfect and we'll work at it, but we'll continue to do the work. So with that in mind, I'd like to say welcome and thank you to the SEC members and the public as well. And shall we begin? Can we mark the time, which is Jennifer? Okay, so we shall start off with the attendance. Corey Betts. I'm not.
He may be joining us a little bit late. He said he had an
Okay.
appointment just prior.
Great. All right, Avery Gaddis.
He also will be stepping in a little bit late.
Okay, Ojala Naeem.
Present.
Mark Pelka.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. Christine Shaw.
Here.
Edwin Shirley.
Present.
Kelly Marie Valeris.
Present.
And Kevin Walton.
Present.
Well, thank you. Shall we approve the December 6th? I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, you did not call Marilyn Alverio or Subira Gordon.
Oh,
Even though we know
apologies.
they're not here, I think we have to officially call their
okay.
names.
Thank you. Marilyn Alverio and Subira Gordon.
And Mike, I don't think we called Mike Jefferson either. It was not present.
Okay, Michael Jefferson, thank you. All right, shall we move for approval of the December 6th, 2022 meeting minutes? May I have a motion to approve and accept the December 6th, 2022 meeting minutes?
So
Moved. Second.
All in favor, any opposed, abstentions? Excuse me. Sorry, bear with me here, thanks. Okay, I think, let's see. At this time, we will enter into executive session to discuss pending litigation. May I have a motion to move to executive session?
So moved. Second.
Okay. I think it was second by member Walton.
I'm getting a nod, yes.
Yep.
Okay. The members have received Teams link for the executive session. Members, you may remain on.
I think you should vote on the motion, Mr.
And log
Chair.
into the Teams executive session. We'll mute you. And once in the executive session has ended, please leave the Teams meeting and rejoin the Zoom meeting. For the members of the public that have joined us this morning, we thank you for your patience and we'll return shortly.
Paul, do you hear us?
They need to vote on the motion.
I don't think you can hear us.
Hello,
You
Paul.
can't hear us.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
let me bring him back. Give me a second.
He's still there. He just can't hear us. All right.
He's probably in the other chat, so I'll bring him back.
No, he's still here. Hold on.
Okay.
We should all be pretty good at reading lips by now.
I know.
I'm gonna call him.
For some reason, I'm not getting an audible. Can you hear me?
We can hear
you.
you.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I can't hear them. I'm getting,
They can hear you. So they're saying we need to go back and do the vote.
okay. I am not getting,
Volume.
Christine, could I ask you to finish the vote for me? I'm having some audio
Sure.
problems. Thank you.
So there has been a motion made to go into executive session and it's been properly seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? We are convening an executive session. There's a separate link, and we'll see you on the other side.
Okay, we've returned from executive session. I will once again call the roll to ensure that we still have a quorum. Marilyn Alvario. Corey Betts,
Present.
Avery Gaddis. Samira Gordon. Michael Jefferson. Ojala Naeem.
Present.
Mark Pelka.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Michelle Siegel. Christine Shaw.
Present.
Ed Shirley.
He's on mute, but he's here.
Kelly Valeris.
Present.
Kevin Walton. I think we still have a quorum, correct?
We need one more. We had Mr. Walton.
So waiting
We
for
lost him.
Mr. Shirley.
I'm
We
here.
do have a quorum.
It's here.
Okay. So
You
we should-
have 7 because Councilman Betts joined.
Great. Thank you. All right, then next on the agenda, we'll hear recommendations from CoNRES on applications for equity joint ventures and workforce development plans. Joining us from today from CoNRES are Ray Kazade, Serona Sade, and Jeffrey Magnan. We'll vote on the equity ventures. So I move to accept CoNRES.
I think they're gonna sort of run us through the
Recommendations.
Okay,
Good morning, everybody. I am Sarana Sade, and I'll make it quick for you guys. We reviewed 14 total EJV social equity applications. We have a total of 5 approvals and 9 denials. Recommendations.
Okay.
all right. Shall we move to accept the recommendations to approve social equity?
I'll make a motion specific to the 5 approvals, starting with application number ACDS 0001212 submitted by Nutmeg Delivery LLC. The second being application number AMHF 0008235 submitted by EJ Ventures 2 LLC. The third application number ACRE 0001569 submitted by SFCCT LLC. The fourth application number ACRE 0015657 submitted by Nutmeg New London JV LLC. And the fifth application number AMHF 8246 submitted by INSA CT Retail Retail 1 for approval.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
Great. And then we have the applications that were recommended for denial. So I will make a motion to deny applications number ACRE 15665 submitted by Butter Holding 2 LLC. as well as application number ACRE 15666 submitted by Butter Holding 3 LLC, as well as application number AMHF 008233 submitted by Willowbrook Enfield LLC, as well as application number AMHF 008239 submitted by Caring Nature EJV1 LLC, as well as application number AMHF 008240 submitted by Caring Nature EJV2 LLC, as well as application number AMHF 008241 submitted by Willowbrook Enfield LLC, and application number AMHF 008242 submitted by Willowbrook Enfield LLC, and application number AMHF 008243 submitted by CT Pharma Newington LLC. And finally, application number AMHF 008242 submitted by Willowbrook Enfield LLC for not meeting all criteria established by the Social Equity Council for denial.
second,
Any discussion? Opposed? Abstention? So moved.
You forgot in favor.
There
Pardon me?
has to be formal vote to approve, then any opposed, then abstention.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you, members. And now we'll hear from Cohen Resnick on recommendations for workforce development plans.
Yes. We reviewed 4 workforce development plans, and all 4 are recommended for approval.
Great. I'd like to make a motion to accept the approvals of the workforce plans. The 4 workforce plans are application number MMDF 0001 submitted by Cureleaf Hartford Incorporated. Application number MMDF 00007 submitted by Caring Nature LLC. Application number MMDF 00018 submitted by Cureleaf Milford Incorporated. And finally, application number MMDF 00056 submitted by Cureleaf Stanford Incorporated.
second,
Any discussion?
Yes, a friendly amendment to the motion. I believe the motion as phrased indicated that we would accept the approvals of the workforce development plans. We are approving the recommendations from Cohen Resnick. So it is the council making the approval.
Thank you very much for that, Councilwoman Shea.
So you accept my friendly amendment?
I accept your friendly amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well then, all in favor?
Aye.
As amended.
Any opposed?
Of the motion as amended.
Of the motion as amended? Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Thank you. Now, and we'll move on to the executive director's report and then the committee reports. I have a motion to accept the executive director's report.
I think Jamie's gonna present it.
Hi,
she's gonna,
sorry, I was on mute.
Uh,
Let me, Jennifer is pulling up my
Okay.
report. Okay, there we go. Good morning, everyone. Jennifer, the next slide, please.
I'm not seeing the slides on the screen.
She's not seeing the slides. No one's.
no, not yet.
Give us 1 second. Are we seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the contents of my report will include information on the council and SEC staffing, program updates, legislative session, budget, and goals. Next slide. So happy new year. Welcome to 2023. Congratulations, council. On January 10th, adults 21 and over legally began to purchase cannabis. We are all a part of history. For the past year and a half, we have worked together with an amazing group of individuals from state agencies to open a new market. The time has come. And my little joke, I hope no one's offended, but take a toke, Connecticut. Our job is dope. Yesterday was opening day. Myself, Paul, the Lieutenant Governor, members of the SEC staff, and Ojala from the council attended the press conference with Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz. And I just put a couple of pictures in here for you all to see. Jennifer, we can go to the next slide. So we have, again, Commissioner Siegel and Director Marriott. The second picture is a picture of folks standing in line outside of ZenLeaf. And then the third picture here is just ZenLeaf had in their facility postings for jobs that they are hiring for. Open for business. There are 9 dispensaries open, retail establishments open: New Haven, Danbury, Montville, Newington, Stamford, Willimantic, Brantford, Torrington, and in Meriden. Just before we go off of that, I did hear that there was over $250,000 in retail sales for the first day of the opening of cannabis. So on to council and staffing. Thank you, welcome, and best wishes. Want to thank former chair Andrea Comer for the work that she has done with our council and has left us to go on to another position. David Lehman, former commissioner of the DECD, who has left state service, and Kyle, who is his designee, who will still be around but playing a little bit of a different role with our council. We want to welcome Chairman Paul O. Robertson. We currently have 2 vacant council seats, which I will be working with with Chairman Robertson to fill. And we want to also extend our best wishes to Crystal Morrison, who will be leaving the council as of tomorrow and joining another state agency. So Crystal, thank you for all of the coordination and all that you have done with us over the last year and a half. We have 5 positions that have been approved, and we are working with Human Resources to post those positions. Our CD, the only position, the CD Assistant Administrator, we are working on editing the job description for that. That has been done, and we're waiting for HR approval. That position is a position that is with the DECD, and we needed to edit it to include the Social Equity Council to be able to use that that job title. Paralegal, a program manager for our reinvestment efforts, and a program manager for our outreach efforts. And then we will refill the administrative assistant position that Crystal is leaving. Our program updates. So we have our accelerator program. There is, it officially starts with classes, online classes for participants on the 16th of this month. We have 35 seats available for that accelerator program, the kickoff initial accelerator program, and 32 of those seats have been filled. We are with Oaksterdam University and Reset are holding a meet and greet with the accelerator participants tomorrow. here in Hartford. So they'll have an opportunity to meet each other for the first time, as they are the SEC and part of the cannabis supply chain for Connecticut. We also are in the process of putting together the announcement for our cannabis revolving loan program. That is a loan program that the Social Equity Council and the VECD will administer jointly. So we will, over the next week or so, plan for that announcement. And we are also planning for webinar information sessions that will be open to social equity applicants. Only licensed social equity applicants can apply to this fund. So we'll have webinar sessions for them to help them understand how to apply, what the monies can be used for, and how the funds will be administered. In addition, we have begun and drafted a strategy that will be presented to council members after this meeting. We didn't want to overwhelm you with more information, and especially those things that were not going to be discussed today, but we have put together a draft strategy for reinvestment that we will be discussing with members of the council. In addition to our reinvestment strategy, we also have the workforce development strategy that they're together, as we know that we've combined the reinvestment, and we feel very strongly that workforce is a part of reinvestment. So that strategy is put together, and you'll be receiving that after this meeting is over, and we'll be holding office hours, and we'll be having additional discussions with all members of the council to get your feedback on that strategy. We're also starting to update our website. So we have just placed a tab on that website, one for the accelerator program, so folks can go directly into that tab to get information on the accelerator program. The same thing with the revolving loan program. As soon as that is announced, that tab will go live with all of the application documents and the criteria for applying. When our community reinvestment strategy has been approved by the council, we'll have updates on that as well. We also have posted a list of vendor resources for social equity applicants. So right now, it's really technical assistance organizations that might be able to assist them, not the federally funded, but state funded technical assistance organizations that may be helpful to our social equity applicants as they finalize their applications and begin to stand up their businesses. Legislative session opened on January 4th. So I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what we're working on for that session. So again, after today's meeting, we are going to be sending out the council's legislative recommendations to the entire council. We will be holding office hours to discuss those recommendations with council members throughout. We are planning to have a special meeting this month to have the council approve the legislative recommendations. And then throughout February and the end of the session, we will be providing the council with updates on our progress. I will have to testify. We'll be meeting with members of the legislature to forward the approved legislative recommendations by the council, and the session will close on June 7th, and we'll have a full report at our council meeting in July. The areas that we're going to be focusing on over the next couple of weeks, marketing and communication strategy, website updates, which I mentioned are already in progress. We're going to be putting out an RFP for marketing services, our reinvestment strategy discussions and tweaking, legislative recommendations, workforce development strategy, filling vacant positions, and completing our discussions with the Office of Policy and Management on the proposed fiscal years 24 and 25 biennium budget.
Sherry, can I jump in real quick? I have a question. Oh, well,
Yes.
great. Perfect
Yeah.
timing. If you go back 2 slides to the legislative policy recommendations, are those something that you can share out? I don't know if I've seen the January 13th meeting invite, and I'm not sure if I'd be able to make it, but I think it's important for council members to be able to review and submit any feedback ahead of the policy committee's meeting so that
Yes.
those recommendations are incorporated.
Yeah, we're going to be reaching out to members individually. We're also going to hold office hours. So we actually don't have a lot of time right now, that we have some deadlines that we have to meet, but we're right after today's meeting, you're going to get the legislative recommendations, and then we'll reach out to you. We're also going to hold several office hours to have discussions on the recommendations and get your feedback. And then it'll have to go to the policy committee on the 17th for the policy committee, and we'll share all of your recommendations with the policy committee, and they'll have that discussion and then make a recommendation to the full council with all of your edits in there at a meeting in January. We haven't, we've proposed a couple of dates, but we're trying to get a quorum.
Okay, I know sometimes, especially with legislative recommendations, it's helpful to hear from other council members and understand what they're thinking, because again, my lens is my lens and someone else's is different. And
Yep.
so I would recommend that we have time on that January special meeting to have that broader discussion as a full council and not just say, okay, we shared them out and here's what's up for vote. Because again, I think one-on-one, you're only gonna get my insight, and I would love to hear what other council members are thinking and what their concerns are as far as policy recommendations go.
Yes. That special meeting actually is for legislative recommendation discussion for the council. So
Are there any other questions?
I think, Member Shaw, did you have your hand up?
I did, but Councilmember, Naeem made the point that,
Okay.
you know, collaboration and deliberation, I think, is necessary, when you're discussing, broader legislative changes.
Taken.
Great. Thank you very much, Ginny Ray, for your report. It's very exciting news, and it sounds like we're off to a running start at the beginning of this year. So thank you for your work on that.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to have a motion to accept the executive director's report.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, Passion. Motion passes.
Great. Now, I guess we go for the committee reports. Good morning, Chairmanwoman Shaw. Do we have a report of recommendations for the Finance Committee?
We do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good morning, everyone. The Finance Committee last met on December 15th, and as part of the committee's ongoing review of not only expenditures for the current fiscal year, which is fiscal year 2023, we continue to get updates from the executive director and the SCC staff on the status of the submission of the next biennial budget to OPM. As we know, budgets are a reflection of our programmatic priorities, and there's been a lot of discussion, particularly amongst, on the committee level between finance and workforce development on the components of what is a very significant aspect of the council's work, and that is really understanding how the workforce development piece and community reinvestment aspects of our mission will play out. The detail is very, very important, and that is what I think Ginny Ray and her team have been working earnestly with the OPM staff to deliver. So I first want to just acknowledge that there's a lot of ongoing work supported by DECD staff. As always, the Finance Committee wants to acknowledge that it's not just our chair, it's not just Kyle Abercrombie and the former DECD commissioner who have been materially involved, but the team at DECD continues to support the SCC team. So with that, I'd like to draw the council's attention to the fiscal 2023 budget and adjustments that have been made at the request of OPM. Included among the meeting materials is a revised budget. And you will note that staff has highlighted in yellow those areas where there have been adjustments made to specific line items. The biggest takeaway from this document and what this council is being asked to approve is that the bottom line total budget amount for fiscal 23 remains unchanged. We anticipate expending 10.7 million, a little over $10.7 million in connection with council expenses and other aspects of workforce development and community reinvestment. There have just been some reallocations amongst line items that reflect the input of committees, notably changes to the line item for certain external providers of communication services. That's a contract that has been changed. There have been other changes to the personal services line item. But if there are any questions, we'd be happy to entertain them. But the action sought by the council today is approval of the revised fiscal 2023 budget as submitted. So with that, I'll take any questions. If there are no questions, I'll take a motion. Ms. Naeem.
There, just wanted some clarity. The community reinvestment program budget has a significant increase. I'm assuming those funds don't include the actual reinvestment dollars. Is that correct?
I believe they do include the reinvestment dollars, but Ginny, Ray, do you want to respond to that?
They do include reinvestment dollars. We are hoping that by the end of in the next couple of months, after we've had some discussion on our strategy for reinvestment, that we might be able to invest in some existing programs to do some enhancement of existing programs. But also remember, in this budget, it does not reflect that workforce and reinvestment are combined. So we are looking at using some of that reinvestment funding possibly in workforce development if we need that.
And this is, from that perspective, it felt low to me, but that's probably reflective of the fact that it's through June 2023. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
Correct.
so realistically, we still have to figure out parameters of the program and strategy and whatnot. So I think that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would point out there are just a handful of months remaining for this fiscal year. I would also note that the revenues, the actual revenues that are currently reflected in the social equity and innovation account stand at in excess of $42 million. That far exceeds our expectations for revenues. I consider that a high-class problem because what we have to do is ensure that we marshal those resources effectively and consistent with the spirit of the legislation. And so the initial projections, which OPM it was the steward of and kind of that was the basis for us setting up the program, those projections will continually be refined to reflect not only the direction that this council sets, but our actual experiences. And so there will need to be continued vigilance on particularly on the part of workforce development as the components of that play out and as the community reinvestment aspect of this work takes more clear shape. Kelly Marie.
Thank you. I just wanted to provide a little bit more clarity on the workforce development and community reinvestment. I believe tomorrow you'll all be receiving the documentation that we've been working on for the last several months on really delineating the buckets kind of associated with workforce development, community reinvestment, some funding parameters around each of those buckets, but having the ability to move money from one program to another within that line item is something that we all discussed in detail and agreed upon in the past. So we've got more clarity around that, and we're looking forward to sharing those documents with you. At this point, they're also kind of parallel processing at OPM as we go through the budgeting process, and we've received some good feedback and positive feedback from them on the level of detail that we have. So I know I'm kind of getting into the workforce report a little bit, but I think they're very, very connected to the finance report at this time. And again, a lot more clarity, and we'll be having a special meeting in the next couple of weeks to have a group discussion over feedback on that plan as well.
Thank you. Ojala,
Yeah, just in a couple of questions come out of that. So I appreciate you guys sort of separating out the workforce development versus the community investment piece, because I think that'll be super helpful. I guess recognizing that we haven't seen a strategy draft come out just yet, do we have thoughts or intentions around how the community reinvestment from a council perspective will be managed? Do we have a committee that will be sort of owning some of the process and strategy, but then also sort of how we're reviewing reinvestment proposals? Or am I jumping the gun and that's all going to be a part of the strategy draft that we should expect to see coming out of staff?
I'll defer to Ginny Ray on that.
Yes. Am I on? Yeah, so we have, the whole strategy includes everything. It includes the RFP, it includes, community conversations, it includes talking, to various partners about this strategy and how the funds will be utilized. And I hope I answered your question. I got a little distracted, I'm sorry.
So my question is, do we have a committee who is going to be owning or responsible for that component of community reinvestment? Or is that sort of being managed by staff and then brought to the full council? And the reason I ask that is, as a social equity council, the community reinvestment piece, at the end of the day, is probably the most critical component as we look at long-term role and responsibility of this council. And so I
Yeah.
want to ensure that there is active engagement from this council in both how that's structured and the strategy behind it, but as well as how we're reviewing and thinking about where where the reinvestment is going and how we're sort of looking at RFPs and so on.
Yes, we will. Yes, absolutely. The council will be completely and fully engaged. The person that we are going to be hiring for the outreach position is going to be the person who is going to be primarily in charge of the reinvestment efforts.
But to
And
get
will
to the
be-
heart of, I'm sorry, but to get to the heart of what I understand Ojala's question, I think there does need to be a designated committee, a subcommittee, just as we have standing committees for workforce development. Yeah, so I don't think that this ought to be vested primarily with staff with reports to the full council. There's got to be that intermediate level of more close scrutiny of how it plays out. To Ojala's point, it is central to this council's mandate. And I think that heightened level of engagement is justified.
And I would almost recommend, I mean, we stood up an accelerator subcommittee, which at this point is primarily defunct because the program is up and running and, the council is not needed to figure those things out. So in a similar manner, it might not be something that's a standing committee, like we have governance and finance and workforce, but something that at least in the short term, so that, again, we have clear engagement and connectivity back to the council.
Okay. So yeah, I think the council has to vote to create an ad hoc committee for reinvestment, and then we can put that together.
I think another critical component of that is also to have a timeline in terms of kind of looking out in terms of what we can expect once we rally the committee together. I think that's something we should definitely look at as well.
Yep.
So I think there's a motion.
I'm sorry, your
Yes.
points are very well served. Paul, we do have some timelines established in the documentation that you'll be receiving. But
Great.
I also agree on an ad hoc committee to stand up and work with the investments in the community is important.
Thank you.
I'd like to propose a motion to create a ad hoc committee focused around the community reinvestment for the Social Equity Council.
I believe there's a motion on the table.
I was gonna say, I think there's a motion.
Oh,
on the
there
table.
is. Oh, I apologize.
So
Yeah,
why don't we address
I
that?
could table,
motion and
how
come
about
back to
I
it?
table, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Chair. I
Yeah,
can
no,
withdraw my motion. We could table my motion and take and then we can vote on the revised budget. That's fine.
Okay. Why don't we complete your motion, Chairman Shaw, and then we'll come back to it. if
I'll take my
that's-
motion back.
Okay.
Okay,
So there's been discussion, there's been a motion, a second discussion. So just to reframe it for the council, the action is approval of the revised fiscal year 2023 budget as submitted by staff.
Second motion.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Well, thank you, Chairman Shaw and the members of the Finance Committee.
So I do have another portion of my report. So why don't I finish my report?
Oh, okay, I
and
thought that
take
was it.
up,
My
the motion.
apologies.
It's okay. It's all right. And then we can take up the motion concerning an ad hoc committee. So just a brief update on the status of the biennial budget for fiscal years 24 and 25. As I mentioned, this council did approve an initial submission to OPM, which is the first stage of evaluation on the part of the administration. It makes its way into a formal proposed budget that the governor advances, and that kicks off the committee process that will be a part of the legislative session over the next several months. There continues to be, it's an iterative process, and staff of the SEC continues to provide the level of detail that OPM requires. When we're speaking of very considerable sources of revenue and pretty ambitious mandates, it's the details which OPM is masterfully stewarding. That's where the continued work is focused. So I believe that the focus questions regarding workforce development have been addressed. And the executive director will keep the council updated of any progress or material changes to what is ultimately recommended by the governor. So that concludes my report. I'd be happy to take any questions. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you. Shall we move on to? Good morning, Ojala. Chairwoman Naeem, do you have a report or recommendations from the Governance Committee?
I do, and before I jump in, I just want to make sure, sort of coming out of the discussion that we just had regarding community reinvestment, if this is a proper time, I'd like to make a motion to create a ad hoc community for the community reinvestment activities of the Social Equity Council.
Second that motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Chairman Naeem?
Great, thank you. So the governance committee met December 20th, right before the holidays. We don't have any formal recommendations to bring to the full council. We discussed the updated and approved organizational chart to ensure that we have clarity on the roles that are being hired for, which Ginny Ray had reintroduced to you all earlier today in her executive director report. We also reviewed executive director fiscal year goals for 2023 and also thinking beyond 2023. We are going to be reviewing those on a monthly basis at the governance committee to ensure that we are tracking against goals that had been set in place. And recognizing that we're a little behind the curve, we've also requested that looking at fiscal year 23 to 24, we have goals established by our May governance meeting so that we can bring them to the council in June. Once they've been brought to the council, that will be a sort of fixed document that we're measuring up against and that the executive director is reporting out against as well. Additionally, we discussed the evaluation process for the annual review for the executive director. Similar to how we had conducted it last year, we are looking at a 360 review, and we'll be gathering feedback from the full council. I believe that feedback gathering request will come from DECD. So I am working with Kyle Abercrombie to really figure out the best way to host that information. Obviously, as we look at sort of the HR nature of these things, wanting to make sure that they are properly managed in a sensitive manner. So you all should be getting something closer to late February, early March, so that we have ample time to complete the evaluation for the governance committee to review and then make any formal discussions or recommendations needed in a council meeting before the end of the fiscal year. So that is my governance committee readout. Any questions from council members on any of those items? All right, thank you.
Well, thank you and the members of the governance committee. I believe Christina Diamond, good morning. You're covering the report for the outreach committee.
Good morning. Yes, I am. So in November, a representative from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services presented an overview of the state's cannabis public education and awareness campaign to the outreach committee. And the committee members felt the messaging was important to share and thought it would be beneficial for the entire council to learn more about the campaign. So I'd like to introduce Sarju Shah. She is the director of the Prevention and Health Promotion Division, and she's here today to talk about Be in the Know Connecticut, a statewide multimedia cannabis education campaign. Welcome, Sarju.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much, Christina. Do you think I can share my screen, or will you be sharing the presentation?
It looks like it's on my screen.
Okay.
You see it? Does everyone see the presentation?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's visible. Thank you.
I do have some animations in mind, so I don't know if it came out through the PDF, just letting you know. But I'm happy to share. So anyway, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. And I'm just trying to coordinate my screens here. So I just wanted to, if we can go to the next screen. Okay. So as you know, June of 2021, Connecticut was the 19th state to legalize cannabis. As part of the legislation, DMS was tasked to develop a statewide cannabis education and prevention campaign. A cannabis work group was established within the Alcohol and Drug Policy Council's prevention subcommittee. And by December, DMS, with approval of the work group, launched a quick turnaround, high traffic billboard campaign to begin informing the community of the new laws. And those are the ones, if you remember, were there were green billboards that really just stated the facts of, like, don't drive with cannabis, make sure that you drive responsibly, etc. Also, and so we've done that part of it. And in order for us to get into the field fast, what we've done is we leveraged a centralized contract to identify a media vendor that could begin really quickly. So we used O'Donnell Company, and what they did is they started off with studying other states, identifying their objectives, their target audiences. They also did performing like a social media listening, looking at the words, what phrases are being searched for within the state itself. Next slide. So thank you. So what we all know is that most states began with educating the general public about the laws. Here are just 4 examples of some of the things that we can showcase. So 2015, we had the Good to Know campaign that was launched by the Department of Public Health and Environment in Colorado. And it was launched in 2015. It had with about approximately $5.7 million to do so. And this campaign was also rolled out by Maine. In 2017, there was the Let's Talk Cannabis campaign, which was developed by California. It was also rolled out by Illinois and Vermont. In 2018, we had More About Marijuana, which was launched by the cannabis, which was launched by Massachusetts Cannabis Control Program. And they had around a $2 million budget for initial launching. And the last one was, we had New York, who launched the Cannabis Conversations in 2022, and they had a $5 million budget. With that said, DMS, the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, we had a $2 million budget to initially launch this campaign. And the campaign started in February of 2022 and will last till about September of 2023 as our initial campaign period. Next slide. So with that, Connecticut did look and listen to what was working for the other states. We developed a science-based campaign, reaching out to the general public, to youth, parents, pregnant and breastfeeding and chest feeding folks, as well as we spoke to Spanish-speaking populations as well. The objectives was really to build awareness among Connecticut residents about the cannabis laws and disseminate key information on public health and deliver really prevention messaging about the services and also supports related to cannabis misuse. Next slide. To meet our campaign objectives, we really wanted audiences to make educated decisions for their own best interest. So we looked at, things they need to know about the laws, the risks, the health impacts, products and potencies, and how their own body would react to pathways for support. That they would also have like a credible source of information. So to bring clarity to that, we really wanted to connect to the priority audience. So we wanted to make sure that we delivered messages that came from an objective place, that it was research-based, it was unbiased information, and really presented in neutral and judgment-free tone. And these were really paired with visuals that were approachable and appealing. So, we are using an omni-channel approach to buying media. This included social media, digital, out-of-home, radio, TV, and streaming. And we also have certain messages that will be more targeted. For example, for those who are pregnant or who are breast or chest feeding, we have messages that will be placed in the OBGYN offices, and also, banner ads will be placed on baby websites. For youth, we're really focusing and on specific messaging for them that are on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, things like that. We're also leveraging other innovative ways to get the media out. For example, we're working with UConn Athletics and making sure some of our messaging is on their digital boards at these sporting events. So, we're having 30,000 people, 30,000 eyes really looking at these messages, both in basketball and some of the other sports that are happening in the spring as well. Next slide. So here are the graphics. As you can see, they have more illustrative quality with texture and some of the use of iconic imagery. The design offers really a quick communication with nuanced appeal that will work with, with all audiences. The vendor also did like smaller focus groups afterwards to ensure that the look and the feel was on point. Next slide. Oops, I just lost my screen. For general messaging, what we have done is you can have the access to the Be in the Know website on your phones. We have the social media presence both on Facebook and Instagram, and we're also doing transit and billboard advertisement. Here are a couple of examples. I also wanted to let you know, this launched in around Thanksgiving, and what was really cute, and I'm totally going to you'll see how old I am, but I felt like I was a character from Fantasy Island, because when I saw the billboards up, I kept on pointing them out to my family members. So I was very, very excited about that. That happened around Thanksgiving time. Next slide. So for this one, and unfortunately you won't be able to see it, but we did use for our youth and the young adults, these are some of our Instagram and our social media posts. The first one does have some animation to it, and you won't be able to see it here on the screen, but it really talks about, these are some of our posts for the youth and young adults. And the next two you'll see are for pregnant and breastfeeding and chest feeding individuals. The next slide. Yep, so this is some of the posts that you'll see for them. Next slide. Oops. Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. Our campaign launched Thanksgiving weekend, and these are some of our performance measures to the beginning of this month. You know, I expect the numbers will jump with the retail sales that began yesterday as well. I just don't have those in front of me at the moment. But as you can see, in roughly a month, we had over 50,000 visitors and about over 1 million impressions for both the different social and digital arenas. We also use, you know, we're also doing streaming on different audio stations, so Pandora, Spotify, iHeartMedia, etc. Next slide. And so as next steps, you know, right now within Demas, I am a one-woman show. You know, we're hoping to expand the team and really focus on community-focused outreach and education. You know, we are crafting the next set of media posts with focus on safe storage, responsible use, and additional prevention messaging. Especially for targeted audience. We have worked with the Department of Consumer Protection. They have been wonderful with providing some of the safe storage, safe disposal, and accidental ingestion messaging. So we want to make sure that we are cross-posting and ensuring that the messaging is similar and the same that's going across from the different agencies. We're also looking into, like, as a next phase, like, you know, into social influencers to see what we can forge, how we can forge new relationships as well. And as you can tell, like, we do have some resources, so you can connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and also on the Be in the Know actual URL website. And the next part is just the appendices. I'm not going to go into this, but please feel free to look at them. These are pretty much audience summaries of what we have, you know, what we found when we were doing our focus group materials, and that's it. So I try to keep this quick and fast for everyone here today. Do you guys have any questions? Yep, and these are the summaries, and I just kept these as appendices. I wasn't sure if you wanted me to go through them or not, but it was really focusing on just like what we found out with our different focus groups and the different types of surveys that we did prior to the beginning of this campaign. I do see 2 people's hands raised.
I can jump in with my question. So just wanted to clarify, this campaign is sort of led and funded through DCP, or is this through?
Through Demas. So I work for the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah, and our focus really is on prevention messaging. So we're, you know, we understand there's a need for adult use cannabis, but what we're trying to do is also provide the prevention messaging for those to support those who have who want to talk to their children about this, to ensure that there's, like, you know, the right appropriate messaging going out to the folks.
That's great. Is there a coordinated effort? I know I've seen some of these. I've also seen some of the ones I believe came through DCP. That the governor has shared as well, just in terms of sales opening up. And I know that the council has some assets that we're developing that we're beginning to sort of push out. And so I think just making sure that those efforts are all coordinated, in sync, running parallel would be great.
For sure. Yeah, we worked with the Department of Consumer Protection. They were very, they reviewed a lot of the campaign materials, provided a lot of great feedback related to that. They've also come up with the accidental ingestion messaging, safe storage, safe disposal. And we wanted to make sure that we cross-posted that on the Be in the Know. So they took the lead on that, and we just want to make sure that we're all, I agree with you that we want to have that same messaging that's going across.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
So I have a series of questions. So just to carry through the thought that Ojala just made, I know that there was some care around references to adult use cannabis as opposed to recreational cannabis. And so, you know, as a mother of someone who is now a teenager who is very interested in these developments, it is very important, I think, to underscore the adult use aspect of this. And that brings me to my next comment and question. Is there any aspect of this outreach campaign which talks about the distinctions between THC and CBD? Because I know that a lot of teenagers are using CBD products which have been legal, and there are other kind of variations in cannabis products that don't have the THC levels that are regulated, but still purport to have certain positive effects. And so use of those by minors is likewise an opportunity for education and awareness. So will any of this outreach cover those variations?
Yes, so we do have some information on our website currently related to that, but our next phase of messaging will really focus on like the differences between that. We'll have it more on the website. We work with a lot of the local communities to talk about prevention messaging, and they do talk about the differences between the CBD and THC as well. So we do that. But it's right now, our main goal is really focusing on what are the laws and then some of the prevention messaging. Our next stage that we're hoping to have up and running in the next month or so will really focus on some of the nuances.
And just a comment, without any expertise, you had mentioned prevention, but then there are also messages which could focus on safety. The analogy that immediately comes to mind, and forgive folks if it's too early, but the messaging around safe sex versus abstinence. It seems to me that, kind of awareness of the impact of even CBD, which would appear to be benign, is something that will be important. And I think there was some reference to adult surveys about parents wanting their child to just be informed and making informed decisions. So I believe that perhaps there are opportunities to, if not an all-out abstinence or prevention message, that an informed, safe use message could have a place in this outreach.
And Ms. Shaw, there is, what we're focusing really on is for the parent pieces of it is how to talk to your child about cannabis. What are the right messaging thing, and what should we developing that relationship and that communication with them about, what it is, having those open relationships. So we do have that messaging there. We're also talking to youth really about brain development, like how does cannabis and utilizing any substances before the age of 25, how does that impact you? How does that impact you in your life, your goals, your sports, and etc. Like we have these messages that we're really focused on. And we wanted to make sure, again, we wanted to make sure all the messages that we have are informed, that we're providing the right type so that folks can make the right decision that's for themselves. So we try to keep to that neutral messaging stance. But we do provide that information on the website. And you'll see when you go onto the website itself, you'll see the resources, and we provide information about different resources you can have within the state. Relating back to, like, if you want more additional information about about the laws, go to the DCP, the ct.gov cannabis website. If you're looking for more support because you think you have you're utilizing cannabis a bit too much, here are some support phone numbers. If it's impacting you in certain ways, here are like information related to pregnancy and breastfeeding, or for youth, or for parents. So we're trying to make sure that we have all of that there and listed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if there are any additional questions, please feel free to email me. We're looking for this upcoming year to really develop a lot of the relationships, and if there's anything that we can help with, we're happy to do so. That is all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Christina, was there any other items?
Nope, that was it.
Well, thank you, Starshu, for that great presentation, and the members of the Outreach Marketing Committee for keeping safety at the forefront. Good morning, Chairman Shirley. Do we have a report recommendations from the Policy Committee?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Yes, the Policy Committee met, and the idea was to continue to review baseline qualifications for social equity applicants for residency and household income. You recall that household income must include all members of a household over 21, and residency would be areas where residing in a DIA where for the first at least 5 of the last 10 years immediately before application, or not less than 9 years prior to attaining the age of 18. And we work with the staff and Cone Resnick to see which of the documentation that we required could be streamlined and at the same time provide the most utility. And as we looked at, I think you may have the documentation in front of you, but let me just say that we feel the documentation that is there is adequate. And what we removed, however, was the requirement for a Social Security card. The Social Security number would be sufficient. The card itself, which brought some, I guess, some difficulty in some cases, we felt was not necessarily relevant for what we are trying to determine. And I'll ask any questions, ask 4 questions if there are any with regard to this particular area of qualification.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark. Just a quick question, sir, and thanks to Chairman, thanks to Member Shirley and the subcommittee for their work. Just for my own understanding, it makes sense to require the Social Security number, but not the card. Does the is there a possibility for review or vetting confirmation using the number as opposed to the card? I was wondering if there's some process or protocol that is followed to confirm that the number is attributed to the individual.
No, that's a good question. I think that might be better answered by our team at Cone Resnick in terms of how they have verified that the Social Security number indeed belonged to the person that was submitting it. I don't know if they're available at this point, but yeah, but I can get that answer to you in terms of how they go about it. I would imagine that they take a look at the other documentation that you see on the screen here, most of whom would require a Social Security number. And I would say that the Social Security number, if it occurs, if the same number occurs in multiple documents, you know, I would accept that as proof that that the person that the number belongs to the person submitting it.
That's a reasonable point, sir. Thank you for making that. And I just would ask for Cone Resnick in the future, just be able to share its process with the full commission membership, just so we all can be aware.
Will do. Are there any other questions? If not, Mr. Chair, that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Shirley. May I have a motion to accept the policy committee's revision to list the residency and income required documents?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. List of documents required for residency and income has been updated and will be posted on the SEC website. The changes will be effective at the beginning of the next round of lottery applications, and we'd like to thank the members of the policy committee. Next, good morning, Chairman Valeris. Do we have report recommendations for the Workforce Development Committee?
Thank you, Chairman Robertson. I did give a little bit of a overview a little bit earlier, but I think I'll give just a little bit more detail. The Office of Workforce Strategy has been working very closely with our Executive Director, Ginny Ray Clay, and teams on really defining and developing a justification as to why workforce development is community economic development. We did some research and have cited other states and some federal documents regarding this justification. And I was at a event for a Good Jobs Challenge right before the holidays, and we were fortunate to be visited by 3 secretaries, the Secretary of Commerce, Labor, and Education. And all of them are really talking about this partnership between workforce development and economic development, and really crossing state agencies to develop these types of programs. And I know the Office of Workforce Strategy has always worked closely with DECD on other economic initiatives that they're working on. So I think this justification provides the documentation. I think that we all needed to point to the rationale for including workforce in our community redevelopment budget and line item. We've broken that out into 3 categories: workforce development, programmatic supports, which I think are, really smart supports that are supporting, say, single fathers, grandparents who are raising children, other types of social issues that are happening within our DIA neighborhoods, and helping to address those, as well as a beautiful neighborhoods reinvestment piece, I think, which Councilman Naeem, very importantly determined that we would need a subcommittee to really look at that, although there are some things that are broken out in the documentation on the steps of which we're thinking about this, and some timelines, but additional meat on the bones, I think, is going to be important to have a committee working on this. The justification, as I mentioned, is broken out over the rest of this fiscal year budget and the next 2-year biennium budget, and has some specific benchmarks and timelines in each. And so we're looking forward to sharing this report out with you. I think Executive Director Clay, this is going out by tomorrow, I believe. And we're looking forward to your feedback on this. A document has gone out to the Workforce Committee and also to Chairwoman Shaw to take a look at with regards to the budget. So we'll be holding a special meeting to vote on the, get your feedback and make any recommendations, and then to vote on the document itself and moving that forward. So if there's any questions or concerns, I'm happy to address them at this time. And if not, I'm looking forward to a more robust conversation once you all have the documentation in front of you.
Yeah.
And at this time, there's nothing to vote on. So that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you so much. And members of the Workforce Development Committee, thank you again, Kelly. All right, so next, for the good of the order, new business updates information. Our next regular meeting of the Social Equity Council is February 7th at 10 a.m. And I would think that unless there's any further business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I just want to say thank you all very much for riding through the glitches at the beginning of this. I can assure you it'll roll a little bit smoother once I get my IT team in. And I just want to say thank you all again for the support. I look forward to following up with each of you and the team. And as I said, I think we have some great things ahead. We've made some incredible strides. And I really cannot thank you enough for the support and the amount of effort that you've done to take on for the state of Connecticut, for the program and building it. I think in the long run, I think we will be the bellwether for the rest of the states in terms of my mantra, which is we don't have to be right. We just want to get it right. And I think the team members we have here are just poised to make that happen. So once again, thank you. I hope you all have a great afternoon and look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.